During the dark days of World War II, there was really only one man that was on everybody's mind, literally because we were looking to him to save us. And when you think about it, all of these years later, as we career towards celebrating Victory in Europe Day, this coming way with some wonderful celebrations over a 4-day period, it's always good to reflect on the people that gave so much of literally their time for us. You know what I'm saying? And when you also look at it now in the modern day era, of course, the world of war, and I don't mean that flippantly, but it's a totally different sort of remit, isn't it? You know, you think about it, there's always threats of war and fights and infighting, that sort of stuff. But sometimes it's the weirdest things that you learn about and you think, wow, I didn't realise that. See, a couple of days ago, as many people know, President Trump of the United States welcomed President Zelensky alongside his team into the White House. And we all know that that sort of came out into a bit of a fractious display of, you know, manly tempers, that sort of stuff. But one of the most redeeming things, of course, was the fact that one of the team called out President Zelensky and basically said, why do you not dress in a suit? Now, this has divided a lot of people, let me tell you, chums, because, you know, from everything from meeting the king dressed like that to, of course, you know, but this clearly is his some kind of look. And they thought it was disrespectful, and meeting the President of the United States, they felt that he should have dressed up. Likewise, I felt he should have done something a little bit more with his appearance on meeting His Majesty the King for the private audience. But there you go. But here's where it gets really interesting, because as you look further and further into the vaults of things, you find out exactly how literally history does repeat itself. Let me explain. Hi, good to see you. You all right? Here we are in Lambeth Palace, and this, yes, you see this coven of darkness, as it were. A place that was very much used in the Second World War, you know, by the way, for meetings, lots of underground tunnels here. So not too far from Parliament, and they would come over here as another safety valve, as you can imagine. We're talking, of course, though, oh, I'll preempt in a wave, but we're talking, of course, though, about this man, Winston Churchill, a man that really commanded respect, and rightly so still does to this day. Now, he was very good friends with President Roosevelt, very good friends indeed. They formed a very, very close bond. But when he used to come over there for meetings and stuff, and in particular when he was based at the what they're now known as the Churchill War Rooms, but the underground war offices, well, a little bit like Zelensky, some people might say, he wasn't always formally addressed in the attire that we all remember. You know, it's not always the same thing. The dicky bow, the smart suit, the bowler hat, and of course the ubiquitous cigar. Sometimes he wore this, a siren suit. Oh yes, and this became very popular, and the siren suit was basically something that you could slip on very quickly, and get this, it was designer made by the royal tailors, no less, Turnbull and Asser from Jermyn Street. There were also versions made for Winston Churchill by the celebrated tailors Austin Reed, which is now no longer a brand over here. But here's what you don't realise. Because he made this very fashionable, lots of people took it on, you know, literally as part of his team. But also the King George at the time, also requested one because he felt that this made people look really smart and, you know, that sort of stuff. It even went further afield. When Churchill was over in America, the First Lady, Mrs. Roosevelt, said she wouldn't mind one, so they had to commission one from Turnbull and Asser over here in London to be sent back over to America. So I'm not saying this is a glib way if anybody is offended, but what you look at is this. You kind of realise that, as I said at the start of this video, in a strange sort of way, history repeats itself, because nobody actually batted an eyelid when Mr. Churchill was dressed like this. And apparently, you know, a lot of the staff, as I said, requested them because they were quick change, and if they had to get to bed or get up early, it was something they could slip on and keep warm with, and more importantly, didn't have to be fully dressed up. As a source pointed out to me, which was interesting when you think about this, we now have something really, I don't know if you have this in your part of the world, called a onesie. And it's been very much sort of, you know, put out as a fashion item where if you're a bit cold, you slip it on and it covers you, your feet right through to your head and a hood and all that sort of stuff. But in a way, as I said, this was sort of fashionable, put together by none other than the former great British war leader, Sir Winston Churchill. Not only that did King George have one, but the Princesses Elizabeth and, of course, Margaret too. But apparently the Queen Mother, no. She much preferred to be still decked out in her usual fashionable attire by Norman Hartnell. Nothing apparently would get the Queen Mother into this glorified siren suit, aka otherwise known as a onesie. So there you go, you see. History truly does repeat itself. Neil Sean, Lambeth Palace, London.